Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. And welcome to our second session of the African Speaks. And as you can see, we are going to be talking about uh, ancestral veneration. When I am alone, I am not alone. Now, there's so much I can say about this experience personally, but and normally when y'all see me, I'm all hypergenic, super energetic. I can't even think fast enough in terms of how fast my mouth be moving. But we're not gonna go through that experience today because this is a day of deep, deep conversation and reverence. It's a lot of controversial topic because how do you equate culture and the aspect of Christianity? We might talk about that today. I have a friend who discussed the issue with me some time ago before. She says, "Do you believe in a conscious Christian?" And I said, "Yes, because Christianity is an African faith, and we can define it as we choose and as we see fit." Which is a beautiful thing. However, I'm going to bring in my co-host. I have a list of questions. We're going to have this conversation again. I'm not the professional, but we brought the professional. And let me bring in my man, Mamelo. Get on the mic and let them know you love Jello. What's happening, my brother?
What's going on, black man? I see
How's
you
it
with the
going?
bars.
Yep. Uh, so we got the brother man today, man. Can you
Yeah,
can
master
can
teacher.
You right, right. Can you give me just a synopsis of what happened when you first met him, and then you got the bask in the glow of and because he comes with a storm of peace, but everything he speaks is so profound. You know,
Right, right. One of my first thoughts when I met Bobby Mbayu was how peaceful and mellow he was. Yet, when he spoke with divine words. And he's one of those brothers who will mesmerize you, not necessarily with the content that he drops, but the energy and the peace that he has when he delivers it. He's a fantastic teacher and an even more inspiring human being. And that's what I love about him because he doesn't just talk the talk, he also walks the walk. And we need more brothers like him to be mentors to us young black men.
exactly, without a shadow of a doubt. And so
So
well,
what we talking about tonight, brother?
But
What we talking
tonight,
about?
brother, is it's ancestral veneration. Is when I'm alone, and
Oh,
it's the topic was when I'm alone, I'm not alone. And so
I'm
that's the
not alone.
catchphrase. Have you ever been
Right. I
walking?
thought you was about to do your version of LL Cool J. Sometimes when I'm alone.
When I'm alone in my room, and sometimes I sit in the wall. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I stare at the
Right.
wall. That's it.
Ancestral veneration.
Woo! Woo! Deep, and then the connection to it to Christianity, um, how we're supposed to use it, how we should use it, how maybe some of the controversies in it in reference to the traditional or European vision or view of Christianity, where they're stripping out our culture. So there's a lot here, but we want to talk about the importance of it first. So,
Mm.
right. And so, without further ado, crew, we want to introduce you to the master teacher. Hey, how's it going? How's it going?
Good evening,
Good evening.
brethren.
Good evening. Good evening.
How you doing?
Good, and glad to have you. It's definitely an honor that you said yes. Um, and just to speak, when I first came to the shrine, just a little synopsis of my connection to you. I came in as a male teacher at the nursery. And I remember when you sent me letters, and I don't know if you remember, because a lot of people said you would send a lot of people letters, and you would touch a lot of people, and you would keep them going. And I don't want to get emotional because I love what I do. I love the charge. I love the fire that's in me, and it happened because everybody was pouring into me. And you just said, brother, just keep going. And you're the only one in the building, only male teacher. Then you was telling me how you were a griot, and I could tell you I thought I was the best storyteller ever. especially when you put me in kids. But it kept me going, and it kept me believing that where I was my call. And so I appreciate everything that you did, and thank you for being you. You
You're
know.
quite welcome. The 13 years that I was in Atlanta, I ran the Cuba land. I was the house father.
Mm.
Me and I don't know if you remember Brother Manatiba,
Mm-mm.
but yeah, we ran a Cuba land for 13 years together, two brothers. So long before it was popular, we ran a Cuba land.
And it and it
So I
and it was
understand where you were coming from when you said I'm the only man. I taught the nursery. I taught every child in the nation how to read before they left the nursery. So I was in the nursery too.
really one of
And
the
when I went
things.
to Houston, I did the same thing in Houston.
So I didn't feel
Right,
bad.
right. Well, you legendary down here in Houston, man, and I have some big shoes to fill because when I came in, that's all I heard is wait till you hear Bobby and Bayou teach. Wait till you hear that brother preach. And I have to say that there is no hype in the talk. It's all real because you are a phenomenal teacher, phenomenal, masterful teacher.
Thank you.
Okay,
Bobby and
okay.
Bayou, how long have you been a member of the Shrine of the Black
Mm.
Madonna?
2021 is my 50th anniversary.
Lord have
Wow.
mercy.
Say it again.
5 decades?
Say it again.
5 decades.
Say it again. Woo. That's a liberated
It
mind. That's a
always seems
liberated
like
spirit.
yesterday.
Jesus. Not Jesus, but Jesus.
They used to say every year, every was it 5 years, you get a letter off of Uncle Tom. You have no more letters. You free. You free, brother. You free. Now, to start the conversation, for those who may not understand it, and because I have a lot of people who watch who are who want to know what ancestral veneration is. They want to know and understand it. So for just the simple person who may have not tried it, may have not done, how can you explain it for someone who's just hearing today?
Ancestor veneration is what we do naturally. It's just paying homage to those who have gone before us and celebrating their contribution, whether it's in your family, whether it's in your community, whether it's in your church, whether it's at your alma mater, the school you attended. We do these things naturally. We pay homage to those who came before us. And every culture on earth has several rituals and practices that are formal, but we do informal things as well to honor and recognize those who have brought us to the point that we are today.
And is there a difference between ancestral veneration and ancestral worship?
Uh, Ancestral veneration, like I said, is what we do naturally.
Hmm.
Ancestor worship is really not any different. It's just culturally, we don't, in the West, we don't understand ancestor veneration in that radical way. So it's just a little more radical than the formal things we do. And because it's not part of who we are in the West, we call that ancestor worship. But really, there's no such thing as ancestor worship.
Yeah.
Humans, if they worship, if humans worship somebody, they're living. We don't worship the dead.
Mm, mm.
So, Baba and Bayou, when we're talking about veneration, the word veneration, when you look at the etymology of it and the root of the word, it is within the context of reverence and respect. Shouldn't it be that when we are being raised in a family, we should be taught the values and the fundamentals of respecting the family first?
Do that. It used to be part of our cultural heritage. When I was coming up, for example, all of my elders, all of my aunts and uncles, my grandparents, they would sit you down and let you know those who came before and the contributions they made and why it's important to do these things and to remember them and to follow these particular cultural patterns. And it was in the rituals. When I was coming up, a funeral service did not begin unless there was a wake. They would bring the body to your house. The body would sit in the living room. Everybody would come over and pay their respects. So you learn these things as a child growing up. That this is how you pay homage. Everything stops. When somebody dies, everything stops. Nothing is more important than acknowledging the transition of a loved one. And people come over, they bring food, they come and sit with you all day and all night. And this is done for like 3 or 4 days before the body is taken and to the funeral home and prepared for the memorial service or the funeral service. So it, like I said, it used to be part of our family traditions, but over the years we've lost touch with some of those traditions, and or we've have, because of our busyness, the busyness of modernity, we reduced them to some small fraction of what it used to be.
Right, right. And that's how I feel. I feel like ancestral veneration is disrespected because family veneration is disrespected. And I think if we took the time to really understand the rich legacy of having a family and what that means, we better appreciate ancestral veneration as well. But you're right, though. We live in this microwave society, quick meal society, fast food society, and we don't realize how that affects our psychology, especially when it comes to something as divine and spiritual as losing a loved one or having a loved one transition to the ancestral realm and not having the time to process that mind, body, and spirit. I believe it creates a great level of unintentional disrespect for the family and for our ancestors. So we definitely have to take time to make sure we really understand the ins and the outs of what it means to have a family, to be born into a family. That's one of the things that always blew my mind, is that we are born into a family. I'm the youngest on my mother's side of all of my siblings. And so all of my siblings on my mother's side are 5 years plus older than I. And I just remember, when I was born into the family, how when I arrived, it was known. Everybody let me know that you are the last one to come into this family. We've been here longer than you. You need to have some respect. And so that was just the government of the house. You the baby, respect the family. We've been here longer than you. We're here to help you. You're not here to tell us what to do. Have some respect. And I think that's a lost practice within American society.
I wouldn't say it was lost. I wouldn't say it was lost. There are still people in every family whose purpose it is to keep those traditions and practices alive. So it's not lost yet. It's still there. It's just taking a back seat to our, like I said, our modern busy technosphere. We're always distracted by all these screens and technology, and we got, so but when you slow down, and coronavirus has slowed us down a lot.
Right.
And a lot of these traditions have come back. Now we sit down at the table and eat together.
Well,
Who knew that was coming back?
well,
Wow.
So
Wow.
they're still there, and life has a way of bringing us back in a circle, 360 degrees.
yeah, they
So
say,
it might not look like it did 100 years ago, but it's not lost.
and so it's more cultural and tradition and heritage than it is religious.
I don't separate those
Take it
things
too.
out.
There we go.
We're mind, body, and spirit. So it's religion is a part of it too, even if you're not so-called Christian. Whether you go to church or not, when you go to even if you don't go to a church, when you attend a funeral at a church, you know the tradition, you know what to do, you know how to act, you know what not to do. So it's part of our cultural tradition. So culture encompasses everything: family, religion, all of it.
Mm. Is there in terms of when we do ancestral veneration, because it is paying homage, saying thank you, and you said we do it already. Uh, what do you think is the conflict that people have when it comes to, ancestral veneration?
Because in the West, when in other cultural traditions outside of the West, where they're more in tune with the spiritual essence of life, it's not an issue at all. Only in the West, because we put more stock into the material realm than we do in the spiritual realm. So it's at the back of our psyche rather than at the forefront. And in the other cultures, it's the opposite. It's at the forefront of their psyche.
Mm. We have, just to let people know who are watching, on the Facebook page, we have an opportunity where you can put up your comments. Nadia said uh, people have changed. It's not the fact that it hasn't been done, as us as a people have changed, and we've come, well, I guess, further and further from who we are in terms of what was her comment. Is that true?
Yeah, we've changed, but not as much as we think we have. uh, it's still in us. That, like I said, and life will bring it back out of us
Mm.
at the appropriate time, whether we aware of it or not.
Right, right. Jay, you said something that was really interesting. You was asking what is the conflict that we have with ancestral veneration,
Mm-hmm.
and I assume when you say we're talking about Western society, right?
Well, traditional Christians will always argue with the Afrocentric us that that's some type of idolization, idolatry, witchcraft processes. You know what I'm saying? So it's like when I say I'm talking about the westernized mind, not the necessarily conscious mind, because now we're in a generation where we have a generation of young individuals who are woke, but they're having a problem with connecting that part of who we are with the word Christianity. And so it's a
Right, right.
conflict for within them. And so I try
Yeah,
not to
I see.
completely separate myself from what my people are going through and the struggle that they're having intellectually, the struggles that they're having emotionally and spiritually. So when I say, I speak, that's how I speak on. Because I know that there's
Let me
individuals.
add this then. Let me add this. Let's start here because I know Baba and Bayou, he gonna break down the importance for African ancestral veneration.
Yes.
But I want to start here, Baba, because when I went to grade school, I went to Cashmere Gardens Elementary School. My pre-K teacher, I remember this like the back of my hand. My pre-K teacher was a white lady, an old white lady in her 80s by the name of Miss Dr. Lewis. And some of the first lessons I remember about just society and what was outside of myself was her giving me lessons about having respect for the founding fathers of the United States of America.
Mm.
In fact, we had to memorize some of our founding fathers in pre-K. We was dressed and arrayed to look like some of the founding fathers in pre-K at a predominantly black public school. The first lesson we got was to have respect for George Washington, have respect for Thomas Jefferson, have respect for Benjamin Franklin, have respect for Abraham Lincoln. So I wouldn't necessarily say there's a conflict with ancestral veneration because those are the ancestors of white Americans, Europeans. I think the conflict comes into play with also the endorsement of African ancestors and our founding fathers. And so I just remember that because I think that plays a vital role in the personal development of black people today, is that early on in our childhood development, we are taught to venerate the ancestors of our oppressors. Those who oppressed our ancestors is who we are trained to venerate. And I think that's a problem. And I
Mm.
think also at the same time, it's conflicting with who we are as a black people. And I think that's one of the first issues that we run into when we're being educated in American society, is to have more respect for their
For
ancestors than
theirs.
our own ancestors. And I just remember that. I remember there being like a vacancy, a void when it came to our ancestors. And
Ours.
even
Right.
as a kid, I wanted to
Right.
know, well, where's the black George Washington?
Well,
Where's the black Abraham
come
Lincoln?
on.
Where's the black Benjamin
Come on.
Franklin? I want to be able to associate and identify with those people. And so, is that strategic, Baba and Bayou, or is that coincidental?
That's absolutely strategic. And you're
Mm,
absolutely right.
come on.
And that is, you just answered the question of why Christians get so uptight when you talk about ancestor veneration, because we've been given a whitewashed version of Christianity. And
Well,
we only supposed to venerate white people, not black people. But at the same time, Christians are practicing ancestor veneration every Sunday, year in and year out. Every time they pray, every
come on.
time we pray and call on the name of our ancestor, Jesus,
Jesus. Well,
that's ancestor veneration. Just think about all the hundreds of songs we sing about that ancestor Jesus. The problem is we just don't know he was black like us.
well,
We think we
Wow,
sing about some
wow.
blonde-haired, blue-eyed man from Europe, but we're singing about an African ancestor. But the problem is not ancestor veneration. The problem is we have been conditioned, like you said, to celebrate European ancestors and not our own. All through school, you said the Pledge of Allegiance. You sang the Star Spangled Banner. That's ancestor
mm-hmm.
veneration.
Mm-hmm.
Your ancestors didn't write that pledge. They didn't write the Star Spangled Banner. That song ain't about us.
Mm,
Okay, so yesterday NFL decided they wanted to play fair. So they had the Black National Anthem sung by Alicia Keys.
come on.
Well, I missed that
And
one.
Yeah,
I
I did
missed that
too.
one.
yeah, when they were singing it, I looked at my wife and said, "What in the world is going on here?" But it was funny because this was all like the pre-game thing, and I said, "I know they're gonna sing the Star Spangled Banner. I know they
Well,
just ain't gonna leave it
well,
like that." And of course, they came back and sang Star Spangled Banner.
well.
But my point is, we practice ancestor veneration all the time without our awareness. It's really about what we call it, and like you
Okay.
said, the images that we connect to it. It's okay to venerate white people.
Mm,
We name schools after them, parks after them, museums after them all day. But we got to fight to get a street called Reverend Albert B. Clegg Jr. We
mm,
got to fight to get a street called Malcolm X Boulevard. We got to fight the whole city. And I'm talking about even in the blackest city in America, Detroit. We got to fight to get a street named after one of our ancestors, but you got hundreds of streets named after white men and white women. So it's like I said, it's how we've been conditioned to think. Most
Yes,
of the rituals,
yes.
most of the rituals in the church are practicing ancestor veneration. We just don't call it
we
that.
don't.
And
Now,
When you
that's one
take
of the things that really encouraged me and inspired me when I got to the shrine. You know, the way I look at my coming to the shrine is like I was escaping the plantation, brother. And, I was going through the wilderness to try to find a place, where I can feel comfortable being Afrocentric, because I was
yeah.
developing my consciousness. And when I got there,
Mm,
what blew my mind, the first time I ever walked into a building, the sanctuary of the Pan African Orthodox Christian Church, is when I saw these big old black images of a black man with an afro and a black woman holding a black baby. I knew right then and there that these are people who have deep respect for their ancestors and their culture, enough that they've made the portrait, the imagery of the building black. And I think that's, we underestimate that, but that plays a vital role in the psychological development of black people. You begin to have self-respect because you're venerating yourself and you're venerating where you come from. And I think that if the black church just adopted a basic fundamental principle like that, it'll be that much better for the black church in whole.
Mm. And with, I can't even. All I can do is put a period to that. Period.
Well,
And Nakai, that goes out to you. Period. You can't say nothing else with that one. In that process, in the process of ancestral veneration and giving honor and respect and thanks, there are also the process of talking to them in reference to, I guess they say, favors versus parental guidance. Favors versus parental guidance, because it's not only just giving honor, because a lot of times we talk about how, and this is before my level of consciousness, before my third eye slowly started waking up and opening, was the fact that my first conversation with my mom, when I was younger, she said, I'm worried about you. I'm absolutely worried about you. She said, so when I cross over, if you call me, I'll be there. She said, you don't listen, you don't pay attention, you do exactly what you want to do the way you want to do it. I got a problem. You're going to have an issue fitting into this world. And it's funny, I think I told you before, was the fact that Kalonji, I had to wake up every morning, and when I went to nursery school, I had to have a well-pressed white shirt and a bow tie. I would not go to school without a well-dressed white shirt, pressed, creased, and a bow tie. My mama said, Lord, my grandmama and my aunts was like, Mildred, you just had one of them Muslims. And so I was always defiant. I was always pushing authority. And she said, look, I have a feeling that you're going to need me when I go. And so I'm always going to call, if you call me and you need me. And I paused. And it was funny because just before she crossed over, she asked me, because we had, sometimes we would have a troubled relationship because of my hard head. And she's like, when are we going to work this out? I said, well, Ma, you told me if you cross over and I need you, you coming. So I'm going to still go out there and do what I got to do, because when I need you, I'm going to call you. And it was that was the first time I got a sense of consciousness where that's what she was talking about. The fact that she was going to be that ancestor when I called, she'd be there. So I could go through life without worrying. And so when I talk about it to, just regular friends and family, it's like, they don't understand that process. And I'm like, how could you not? It's because sometimes when you are a parent, and this is what that process allows, you don't take that parental spirit doesn't dissipate because you transition over to the next side. When you're an ancestor, that parental desire to take care of what belongs to you doesn't cross over. So being able to, and you said, like you said, everybody, and again, because people will always say, like you said, we do it unconsciously. We are doing ancestral veneration when it says, I know mama looking down on me. Everybody's saying it. If that's not acknowledgement that spirit is still there, everybody's saying it. Yeah, I could feel what my father's saying to me right now. And it's everybody does it. Ancestral veneration. So how do we get to the point where that we're getting people to see that unconsciously you're accepting the African tradition that is innate in your spirit? Where we can pull you over to the point where the part of your spiritual awareness is the African in you. How do we work that part out? Right.
that's a come to Jesus meeting. It's like Kalonji was talking about his awakening when he walked into the shrine. People have to have that experience on their own. You can't legislate that, and it happens. It happens in its own time. Incidents like the ones that sparked the Black Lives Matter movement help to move people a little bit closer to that consciousness point where they actually wake up and say, "Hey, this ain't mine. I'm just an outsider looking in. This is not culture. This is not my country. These are not my rules and you know what I'm saying? It's an unfolding process. People are in different stages all the time. And at some point, life will, like I said, push them to that point where they actually have to face the reality of who we are.
And and doing that, and so the asking of favors. What is it that you can? What do if going to an ancestor? What can you go to the ancestors with and for? What are the things that people can call on
Before I answer that, let me
them?
go back to your prior question. When you educate children from birth on, they don't have to get there. They're already there.
Well,
Like all of our children who grew up in the Kiba land, it's just part of who they are. So but like I said, it can also happen in the larger energy field. When enough people wake up, then it just becomes like the 100th monkey. Everybody is conscious now.
mm,
When enough people wake up, everybody becomes conscious. That was the 60s. That's what I grew up in. Everybody was conscious. Everybody was woke.
mm,
It was in the air. You couldn't have. I went to school and they were singing the Black National Anthem every day. The
mm,
national anthem was on the radio at 12 o'clock every day,
mm.
all through middle school. So I heard the anthem. I knew the anthem by heart long before I came to the shrine. It was just part of the culture. It was in the air. It was in the energy field. So those experiences are still possible and will still happen. But in terms of your second question, how do we begin to take steps towards making ancestor veneration a regular part of what we do?
Mm-hmm.
It's just being attentive and being intentional.
Mm.
It wasn't until I started traveling to West Africa in 1999 that I really realized that we are much more African than we think we are,
Well,
because we've been so conditioned to hate
mm,
Africa and the symbolism of Africa that we try to detach ourselves. But as Malcolm said, it's in our DNA.
hey, it's a part of who we are.
And in all of my travels back and forth, I saw so much of Black culture. And I said, we do these same things. We just call it something different, but
Well,
it's the same thing. And so the more I saw this over and over, I said that Africa is really in our DNA. We don't have to go to Africa to be African. It's in our DNA.
part of who we are.
And that's divine right there in
That's it.
itself, because it resurrects itself, right?
Yeah.
It keeps coming up. You cannot suppress your ancestral lineage.
Right.
And it's amazing how we have these conversations, but we don't necessarily define what is being said. But we are saying it subconsciously. Like I used to always hear, boy, you just like so and so. You act just like your so and so. And in
Mm-hmm.
my family, I used to act like a uncle that I've never met. He transitioned way before I
Well,
was even born. But when we would go to the family reunions, I would see my aunties and cousins say, don't he look just like Uncle Bobo? He even talk like him. He gonna be a preacher. I'm a preacher, and so I think a lot of times we underestimate the importance of our biological lineage of who we are. DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid. That is not just about who birthed you. It's about the code that you was birthed with, what they put in you when you was birthed. And so that's powerful, Baba and Bayou. And I will share also one of the things, I have a 4-year-old little girl. So I'm having to watch every Disney movie that drops right now. That's my days consist of watching
that's
Disney,
it.
Powerpuff Girls on Netflix, and all of these different cartoons and animations, and I'm just saturated with it. But I saw a movie on Disney called Coco. I don't know if you guys ever
Come
heard of
on.
Coco. So you
That's
saw
my
Coco, Bobby and
movie.
Bayou? Yeah, and
That's my
Coco,
movie
the
too.
whole context of the movie is about ancestral
I
veneration.
love
All
that
that. And
movie.
look, I don't. My youngest is 22, and I watched it without her 4 times in a row by myself. That was it right
But the
there.
whole movie is about ancestral veneration, and you know
Yes, it
the
is.
star character of the movie, a little kid by the name of Miguel.
Well,
He has this itch to play music.
come on,
He's
and
in love with music.
come
He
on,
don't know why,
come
but he
on.
do not want to give up music, and it has something to do with his DNA.
Mm,
I think it was his great grandfather who was
mm-hmm.
a
His
songwriter and a
father.
Is
guitarist, and it passes down to him.
that was yeah.
And so,
I
I
love
mean,
that
we
movie.
really do ourselves a disservice when we
I'm gonna
don't
watch it
promote
tonight.
ancestral veneration in our black families.
Absolutely, absolutely. I had a question come across from a viewer. He asked, "How important is it that we visit Africa in terms of connecting? How important is
Ooh.
that?"
There's no place like home.
Woo! You could.
There's no
Wow.
place like
Teach.
home.
What else? What else are you gonna say with that one?
You haven't lived until you go to Africa. You
Come
haven't.
on.
If you're black and you living in this world and you haven't been to Africa, you have not lived.
Mm,
There's no place like home.
mm,
Africa is really the Garden of Eden. It really is the Garden of Eden. It's a paradise. You can go to the poorest, most poverty-stricken area of Africa, and it's still paradise. Why?
mm,
Because the people will love you and welcome you and appreciate you and make you feel like you're in heaven.
mm. Now again, um, we have individuals making a lot of comments because we're streaming on like 8 platforms, but only 2 of the platforms will allow your comment to appear on the screen. So if you could, please go to the African Speaks Facebook page. It's free, just like it, and you'll be able to put your comments because somebody's saying happy anniversary to somebody. Somebody got an anniversary. It's your anniversary today?
It's
If I you?
not my
Oh, somebody.
uh-uh.
Oh, somebody had an anniversary. Say happy anniversary, and it's going up. Whose anniversary is it? It ain't mine. But if you please go to either the Facebook, the African Speaks Facebook page, or the African Speaks YouTube page, and be able to place your comments, and so that we'll be able to do it. We have a couple of people talking about how much they do watch that movie, and we are seasoned adults. Thank you, deeply seasoned adults. And I just might have to watch that movie before the night is out because I'm charged now to see Coco go hunt down to find out who he is, and then he plays. And then it not only that, and let's talk about this in process of healing relationships with your ancestors because the mom. Woo, we about to see. I'm about to wake up and start talking too much. The mom, the grandmother had pulled the family away from the identity of who they are because of her life experience. And so she held that family by a hard hand. But because in the process of doing ancestral work where you're blending in and you're healing some of the divided relationships between you and those who are gone before so that communication is easy. The ability to feel that presence is easier. How important it is to do that ancestral work.
Again, I say there's somebody in every family who's that's their assignment
Simon.
to do that work.
Mm.
And my family, my mother, for many, many, many years, our families, my mother's family is from South Carolina, my father's family from Alabama. But every year she would go down south to South Carolina and find her relatives, reconnect with them, collect family stories. She was really putting together the family history. And every summer or Christmas time, I would go home to Detroit. I was in Atlanta at the time. I would go home and I'm the writer in my family. I'm the scribe. So I would have to write all of the family history. And we did this over many, many years. But I ended up writing the whole family history because my mother would journey, like I said, to the South every year and collect these stories, reconnect, and connect all the dots. And that is somebody like that in every family. That's their responsibility to bridge the wounds and to heal the gaps in generations within a family. And whether they call it ancestor veneration or whatever, they don't even have to have a name for it. They just do that work because that's their calling. But there's somebody like that in every family.
I know.
No, go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, I know. And I just had my first divination few weeks ago, and it was shocking that in there he said most of the people who are going to come to assist in my journey are going to be from my father's side, and that was shocking to me because my experience with my dad is it started and almost ended at the age of 7, because at the age of 7, and I said this before, he sat me in his lap and said, "Look, I'm out, and this is your family." When that happened, it was clear that I manned up, took care of everything, but I kept them close. In my reading about ancestral veneration and how the importance of it and what happens in there, it says that if you do have a parent that wasn't as parental as they needed to be, when they transition, they're actually the ones who will put the work in overdrive. And so my experience when my father passed, and I've been doing this for a minute. When the experience when my father passed, I could feel him in the room. You know what I mean? So I poured libations, lit the candles, incense, played his music. My father's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Played his music, and I could feel it. And then I could see and feel my mother look at him and say, "Look at what he's become. You set him on a path to take care of the family. Now everybody he sees is his family, and he feels it's his duty to make sure that he brings his family together," which made sense when it came to us building this black nation and bringing our family together. It was just the beginning, and I could feel him in complete awe. So when I had that divination, and he said, "Your father is putting in some work." So it's on that side in reference to assisting you to the things that that you're doing. I get it, I get it, and so on top of my mom saying that she'll always be there, and my situation with my mom, my experience of understanding that this is as real as you can get. It is a part of our DNA and who we are. My family when we had a celebration in honor of my mom's passing, or what we got from her, in reverence. And I didn't go, right? I have beef with the family that's living, the ones that cross over, we cool. And so my father came to see me to talk to me about it one time, my stepdad. And so when he walks in my house and he sees my altar and he sees my mom's and the pictures and everything that is greatly done, he broke down, instantly broke down, couldn't even speak to me anymore. And I told him, I said, "Y'all trying to honor her once a year. I honor my mother every day." I said, I give thanks for who she raised every day. And he cried uncontrollably and couldn't even stay in the house. The power he felt was so strong. And he ran out the door saying, I've never seen anything so beautiful. I've never seen anything so beautiful. And I looked and I said, "Well, next time you see him, tell him this is not a yearly thing for me. It's a daily thing." And so how important it is for us on this side that we take them with us in that journey.
Yeah, I'm trying not to tell any stories. I have so many I could tell you.
That's what I'm waiting for. And look, I'm trying to trigger the brother. Help me trigger the brother, because it's the best storyteller we have. Go ahead.
Way too many.
Go
Too
ahead.
many.
Pick one.
Too
Pick one. Just one. Go ahead.
Oh, the first one that came to my mind, the more you open up to your ancestors, the more they will be involved in your life.
Mm.
Uh, I have to start with my paternal grandparents because they were so instrumental in who I am. I was blessed to have both sets of my grandparents all throughout my childhood. But every summer, we had a tradition in our family. Every summer, we belonged to our paternal grandparents, so we actually lived with them the whole summer. So, of course, they had more of a impact on me because I spent more quality time with them. But also, on the same hand, my mother's mother, my maternal grandmother, lived with us at our house, so she was there. So I had both sides. But every summer, like I said, I belonged to my paternal grandparents, and one summer they moved to California, and I ended up, that was my first plane trip to California. I stayed the whole year in California with them. But I would say all the way up until age 11 or 12, they were just a very intentional part of my life. And as I got older, became a teenager, by the time I got to college, I was just doing this naturally, but I would always give them credit. Anytime I talked about any accomplishment I had, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be able to do this without my grandparents, without my grand. So I started this practice, not calling it anything. I had no phrase for it. Just naturally, I knew that I owed a lot of who I am to my grandparents, maternal and paternal. So I started doing that, just like you say, you this is not something you do once a year. You do this every day. And I did that. I gave thanks and praise to them for setting me on a spiritual path, helping me to understand who I am, my relationship with the Creator, what I'm called to do, understanding my purpose. I give them credit for all of that. And so their presence is always with me. I don't care where I'm going, what I'm doing. I can always feel them near. But this is the thing I want to say about ancestors. Ancestors travel in groups. It's like a vibe. If you think about a vibration, when the spirit leaves the body, that vibration seeks out other similar vibrations. And so you have a communion of saints. In the Christian church, we say communion of saints. That really is a thing. It's a communion of saints. So your family, like you said, your father's side, your mother's side, those are two different communions of saints that you have on your side. But you also have generations that have gone before them. And you also have generations that will come after you. And you never know where your help is coming from in any particular situation. Like you said, your mother told you before she transitioned, when you get in trouble, look, you need to call on me. And that's real. That's real. When you call, they will show up. All you have to do is invite them in, and they will show up. And like I said, I got way too many stories to tell you about that. But I'll just share one little story. One time I was visiting Benin in West Africa, and my godson kept begging me to go have a divination with his priest. And I really wasn't trying to have a divination. I just wasn't interested. And he kept, Father, you must go, you must go, you must go. So finally, I said, okay, he ain't gonna stop asking till I go. So you take me to see this, your priest, your imam. So we went, and we went to some rural village, and the guy didn't, Benin is a French-speaking country. That's their national language. They don't even speak English. But this guy, this priest, he didn't even speak French. He only spoke, the traditional languages. So he's there, doing his divination. And I don't understand a word of what's being said, or, I'm just sitting there totally lost. So after it's over, my godson, who speaks about 15 languages, he explains to me, Father, he says this, that, or the other. He says there's a spirit with you that wants to be a part of your life, and he's been following you around for many, many, many years, and he wants you to know that he's with you. But he says that it's a small child. And I said, what? A small child? He said, yes. He said, it's a little baby who is a spirit that wants to be with you, wants to wants to be a part of you. And I was just totally lost.
Mm.
I said, a little baby? What on earth? So, I left the divination feeling like, okay, this was a waste of time. I don't know what this man is talking about. Wow. So I went to my hotel that night. I'm sitting down in my room. I'm still puzzled, still trying to figure out, what in the world was this man talking about? He could have just made this up. So I thought and I thought, and finally it came to me that in my younger days, one of my girlfriends, this is before I got married, had an abortion.
Mm.
And I had no conscious knowledge of this. And this is the
Mm.
power of this, what I'm sharing with you. I didn't even know it consciously, because she never told me. I just knew there was a problem in our relationship and it was tearing her apart, but she never would tell me what the problem was.
Mm.
So I never suspected that she was pregnant, had an abortion.
Mm.
That never crossed my mind. Now, this happened like in 1976 or 7.
Mm.
And this was like 2003, many years later. So it just came to my consciousness. I said, that must have been what the issue was. She must have had an abortion and just could not tell me. So I went back the next day because I had to go back and see the diviner again because he had to perform some rituals. And so I asked my godson to ask him directly, can he tell me some more about this little child? So he did. And the guy said, he is your unborn child. He told me that point blank. I said, oh my God.
Wow.
So he performed some rituals and all this. And long story short, from that moment forward, my unborn child was a part of my communion of saints. And it really opened my psyche to recognize how many other ancestors I have not been
Been.
uh, open to.
Mm.
And so I started looking in my family lineage, all the ones who I remember or who passed before I was born, like Kalonji was talking about, who I have never acknowledged in any formal way. And I said, I have to bring them into my communion because they're part of who I am as well. So it really helped me become more aware of where my help is coming from, where my blessings are coming from, how I get through. And people don't think about it until they get through, but somebody's helping you get through whatever
Wow.
you're going through.
Wow.
You don't just get through by yourself.
Wow.
Somebody is there helping you all the way,
Mm.
whether you are aware of their presence or acknowledge their presence or not.
Mm.
You don't get anywhere through any struggle, any battle, any challenge on your own. Without the ancestors, you don't get through.
That's a soundbite right there, brother. You heard the
Jesus.
soundbite? Dude, look, I'm letting you know now, Bishop. We're gonna soundbite that. We're gonna put in the commercial.
Man, hey, it's
Man.
that's just powerful, Baba, because as you're saying that and breaking that down, one of the things that came to my mind is that it is really unsafe and
Mm.
dangerous for black people to practice European white ancestral veneration, because
Mm.
if the ancestors still have power
Mm.
and if the dead has the ability to affect the living, then us venerating the very people who oppressed our ancestors can only be harmful for us and to us. Because if they enslaved our ancestors, what do we think that they would do to us from the ancestral realm?
Come on.
And that's one of the issues we have to deal with as black people, and that's why it's so important to be culture centered, so you
Wow.
don't run into these kind of spiritual problems. What also came to mind is that, in the movie Black Panther, rest in power to the ancestor Chadwick Boseman, but in the movie Black Panther, Ajay brought this up about having, the wisdom to correct family problems or, community problems or cultural problems,
Mm.
national problems. in the movie, the Black Panther had to go back to the ancestral realm, and you remember the ritual, right? He had to take the heart-shaped herb. They had to cover his body with the red sand, and when he went there the second time, he had to confront his ancestors for doing something that was affecting his reality.
Mm.
You know, the dead had did something that was affecting the living, and he had to come back and say, I got to go back and correct this for the legacy of the nation, so
Come
that the
on.
nation can stand tall,
Come
because
on.
my ancestors missed something that I have to correct. And I just love how you painted that picture, Baba Mbayu, because a lot of times we have to understand that having practice an ancestral relationship is not just about us honoring, you know, the black people who were somewhat powerful in the black community or did some great things, and having respect for their life and their legacy, but it's also having a relationship with these people. To have a relationship with your ancestors, because you have to understand what your ancestors went up against, because what they went up against has a direct correlation with what you are going up against or
Come on.
experiencing as a person. So ancestral veneration is imperative. I mean,
Come
it is
on.
necessary as drinking water and breathing air. You have to practice ancestral veneration.
Now, and I'm glad that this is hitting you in some kind of way, because we let y'all know these are organics. This is an organic conversation, because I wanted to ask the question, that not even that, or the experience now, because a lot of times when we're doing ancestral veneration, and when I'm a little reading, it's not just about you. But then here's the question: how important it is, being that we are PAOCC, Pan African Orthodox Christian Church, and our focus is the liberation of Black people, which not too many organizations on the face of this planet will even discuss or talking about realigning African people to who God would have them, be and do. And this is what we do. So how important it is for us to understand that, again, we don't walk alone. Even Marcus Garvey said, when you need this help, call me. I'm coming with millions behind us to assist us, to realign us to who we are in God, not our ancestors. Because and that's the importance, because sometimes we have people do ancestral venerations for their own personal selfish reasons. I want to accomplish what I want to accomplish for me today. And it doesn't line up with that covenant promise, being the people of God to receive the blessings of God. And so as a people, knowing that we have to flip this world upside down, we got to turn it over. We got to walk in the in our DNA, we're going to say. We got to walk in the greatness of our DNA, who we were called to be. How important is it to let people know that in this fight, which may seem insurmountable, we don't do it by ourselves? When we call on them
Absolutely.
as a people. When we call
Yeah,
on them as a people.
absolutely. Marcus Garvey was talking about the communion of saints.
Come on.
He said, I'm not coming by myself. I'm coming million strong. He said that over and over again. I'm coming million strong. So he was, but you have to think about his calling. Where did Marcus Garvey get his calling? In the hull of a ship when he was crossing the Atlantic Ocean. The answer
Woo!
to him and said, you need to go and build a nation for our people. He received his call from the ancestors. And so he was connected to that ancestral energy. And that's what drove his mission. That's what drove everything he did.
Mm.
He had that consciousness that he was not doing this by himself.
Mm.
He was not alone.
Kalonji, what could African people expect when they tap in that power as we make these moves, brother? Being one that is called to bridge the gap between those who are wisdom and has been in this journey, and that's what they're celebrating. They're celebrating your 50 years. That's what the anniversary is. It's the 50 years. So everybody's saying happy anniversary online. That's what they got tons of people saying it.
That's one anniversary, but let me share this one quick thing.
Come on.
And it's wow.
Go ahead.
This is incredible. A year ago in February, my oldest son, Zuberi, and his wife gave birth to a stillborn. His name is Kai. He was born in the month of February next week. So this is his anniversary. So when you said that word anniversary, I said, no, I don't have an anniversary. And then after I shared the story about the imam in Africa, it hit me. You do have an anniversary. Your second grandson, his anniversary is next week.
Wow.
And so again, I say it is a part of our natural expression if we open ourselves to the awareness. It's part of who we are. And Kai showed up tonight just to remind me, don't forget my anniversary. And Dad, don't forget my anniversary.
The African speaks. That's beautiful right there. We are connected to generation after generation after generation. Our energy field permeates the entire universe. And when we need to show up for each other, we show up for each other.
Yeah. And not only that, it's also in direct correlation to our religion as well. The biblical people that we read about are our ancestors.
Come on.
You know, you and I was having this conversation, Ajay, about the importance of understanding fatherhood and how it is kind of connected to the ancestral realm as well. Because when you produce a child, you're looking at a reflection of yourself, and you're also looking at a reflection of who you come from as well. And so you see yourself almost three-dimensionally, 3D. You're seeing yourself from a 3D perspective. And and Bobby and Bayou probably can help me with this. My memory is serving me the story of Jesus, Abraham, and Melchizedek, and that Jesus was a priest, a divine priest from the order of Melchizedek, yet you had to be blessed by a priest. And I think the Hebrew writer says there were some people who tried to argue that down because Jesus had never lived to be blessed by Melchizedek. Melchizedek lived thousands of years before Jesus. But the blessing came in the fact that Jesus was in the loins of Abraham. You remember that, Bobby and Bayou? And when Abraham was blessed by Melchizedek, Jesus was blessed by Melchizedek. So Jesus was able to tell his haters, y'all don't know who my great grandfather is. Abraham, he was blessed by Melchizedek, and because he was blessed, I'm blessed.
Was blessed.
And it's just a part of who we are as a people. And I think when we were stripped of our culture and when we were being oppressed and made to be slaves, that's one of the many components of being African that went out the window for us, is that they tried to put ancestral veneration to death. And it is our divine obligation to make sure that we resurrect it and make it a consistent common practice in Black families today, because it's going to benefit us, and it's going to definitely benefit our children and our grandchildren.
And it's amazing that, like you say it that way, but all through the Bible, from Genesis to Revelations, they're venerating their ancestors.
Come on.
All through the Bible.
Come on.
Every time you begin a chapter and it says, like, especially in the Old Testament, all the way through Genesis, and they name the prophet and his father and his son and his grandfather and his the genealogy is all through the Bible. That's ancestor veneration. Every time a teacher or a leader or a prophet did anything, they wrote a song about it. They celebrated it. They I can't even tell you how many religious holy days where they venerate ancestors all through the Bible. That's African, but see, we don't associate Africa with the Bible. We think it happened somewhere else. It happened in Africa, happened in Egypt and Eastern Ethiopia. These are African people. but we don't make that connection. So we don't. We think
Mm.
we think it's Christian. No, they weren't Christians. They were Hebrews.
Come on.
In the New Testament, they weren't Christians. They were Jews.
Come
There
on.
are no Christians in the
Christians. Yeah.
Bible.
Say
The
that. Say that
Bible
again.
is a Hebrew historical document and a Jewish historical document. It's not a Christian document. It
Mm.
was adopted by the Christians, but there are no Christians, help us, Holy Spirit, in the Bible.
Come on.
Jesus was not a Christian. He was a Jew.
Jew. Say it.
Mm-hmm.
Say it. Say it.
So, it's right in front of us, but we can't see it because we've been blinded
Mm.
by a
Yes.
white West worldview. So even though
Mm.
it's right there, we can't see it.
This was powerful, brother. This was powerful,
Deeply.
man. We can go
Deeply.
on and on and on about this conversation. But one more thing that I would like to bring up, Baba, and have you deal with is the symbols of ancestral veneration, the
Mm.
symbols and the rituals. Because when I was in Lake Charles, Louisiana, and I started becoming radical, and I got a hold of Miseducation of the Negro and read it when I wasn't assigned some kind of homework from college, and I read it on my own for my own entertainment. It began to radicalize me, because all throughout the book, Carter G. Woodson talks about the miseducation of the Negro and how the black church played a vital role in miseducating black people, and how it was used and manipulated by the slave masters and the oppressors to really dumb down black people. And when I was in Lake Charles, Louisiana, I'll never forget, I was jogging one morning, and I jogged down to the seawall, Jay,
Mm-hmm.
and I saw a group of people outside on the seawall, and they were celebrating the erection of a statue. And it was by the man. The name of the statue was a man by the name of Nathaniel Daniel Goss, and that was a black neighborhood in Lake Charles called Gosport. It was named in this man's honor, in this man's veneration. And I'll never forget how, when I went to research him and I found out that he was a notorious slave owner, I could not comprehend why so many black people was out there also celebrating the erection of that statue. And then it was like an avalanche. It's just like a waterfall. I start seeing the symbols of white European ancestral veneration everywhere. I went downtown, and in Lake Charles, Louisiana, that was an erected statue of the Confederate soldiers. They were paying homage to the Southern Confederate soldiers. And then you go down a little further, and you'll see somebody with a Confederate flag in their yard. And all around was the symbology of white European ancestral veneration, and you could not find any black ancestral veneration in the town just by looking for it. What kind of role does that play for the healing of black psychology today? The importance of seeing black symbols that venerate our ancestors, and the importance of understanding what they mean. How can that benefit our psyche today, Baba?
As you were talking, I'm thinking about Tom Burrell and his book Brainwashed,
Mm.
and
Brainwash.
he speaks so eloquently about how important symbols and images are.
Are.
And like you said, when you first came in the shrine and saw the Black Madonna and Jesus on the wall, what it did is it's impossible to not take seriously the imagery, that we surround ourselves with. And because there's a book by Toni Morrison called The Bluest Eye. Anybody ever heard of that book? If you've never heard of that book, please read that book. It's a little small book, but it's a powerful, powerful book. But it's the story of a little black girl who grew up with all these images of white, so-called white beauty, blonde hair, blue eyes. And she wanted to be white. She wanted to have blue eyes and blonde hair. And it tells that whole story. But images are powerful. And what we see is what we identify with. And once we identify with something that is not who we are,
Mm.
then we are totally confused. Like the book said, we're brainwashed. We think we're some like this. I think about the story of the chicken who thought he was an eagle.
The chicken
When
who
you
thought he
when you
was an eagle. You gonna tell a story?
no no, it's the eagle. I'm sorry, who thought he was a chicken. Now, if you think you're something that you're not and you're acting like that, then you're not living out who you are. But anyway, long
Mm.
story short, the young eagle met an old eagle. And the old eagle saw the little eagle down in the yard with these other chickens acting like a chicken, pecking on the ground and all. And he flew down and landed on a tree branch and looked down and he called to the eagle. He said, "What are you doing down there with all those chickens? Don't you know you don't belong down there? You're not a chicken." But the eagle was captured out of the mountains and brought down and put in a cage with some chickens. So he thought he was a chicken. So he
Mm.
was acting like a chicken. And the old eagle said, "No, no, son, you are not a chicken. You are an eagle. Fly up here so I can tell you about yourself."
Mm.
And the little eagle looked up at the old eagle and he said, "Fly? You know chickens can't fly." And the old eagle said, "I told you you're not a chicken, you're an eagle. Fly." Well, the little eagle had never spread out his wings. He didn't know he
He
had
didn't know
such a
it.
huge
Mm.
wingspan.
Come on.
And he didn't know if he flapped his wings that he could actually fly. And he flew up on the tree branch next to the old eagle. And the old eagle told him the story of his family, told him who his mother and father were. You're king and queens of the sky. You rule the sky. You don't belong down here on this farm pecking around like a chicken. You are not but that's the whole value of images, because we imitate human behavior makes you imitate what you see. So if all we see are white images, that's all we have to imitate. So that's why symbols and images are so important. You talked about symbols and images of veneration. Well, that's a you can make anything into a symbol of veneration. Anything in nature. You can a rock, a stone, a shell. You can imbue energy into that inanimate object and make it a representation of any ancestor. Jay just talked about a divination. When you have a divination, you use shells and stones and bones, and all those things represent energy. Okay, so there are many like the break. People wear ancestral symbols and they don't even know it. The necklace you got on, where did that symbol come from? West Africa. You representing your ancestors. So again, I that's why I keep saying we do these things naturally. Everybody wears some jewelry. The kind of jewelry you wear has something to do with the vibration of
Vibrations
your
of who you are.
ancestral
Mm.
heritage.
Mm.
That's right.
The reason why you like the jewelry that you like, whether it's gold or silver or copper or wood or whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is because that's the vibration of your ancestral realm, of your ancestor tree, of your communion of saints. So you don't have to be conscious of it. You do this naturally.
Mm.
So just how much better can you commune with the ancestors if you do it intentionally? If you do it woke. You use that word radicalize. I do not like that word.
Mm.
I do not like that word. You were not being radicalized.
Radicalized.
You were being woke up.
Mm.
You were being enlightened when you picked up that book and read it. You were being made aware of who you were. You were being affirmed and confirmed.
Mm.
You weren't being radicalized.
I can dig it. I can dig it.
You were
But that,
becoming
that
who you
goes
are.
Now
That's a
but that just
process.
goes to show you the importance.
Listen. That's a process of self-discovery,
come on.
not radicalization.
Listen. Well, teach.
Because the radicalized folks I know don't have a clue who they are.
Well, teach.
But
Teach.
that just goes to show you the importance of linguistics and language as well, because one of the things that we are very serious about in the Shrine of the Black Madonna Pan-African Orthodox Christian Church is language, watching our language. And as you was breaking that down, just with that terminology, using certain terms, versus others, we got to deal with the names, Baba. We got to deal with the names. We got to deal with the symbology of the names and how they correlate to ancestral veneration. One of the things that really kind of made the Nation of Islam popular, I wouldn't even say popular, I would say infamous in a certain way, is that when Elijah Muhammad started giving, the teaching about wearing these white European English names, and of course Muhammad Ali start going through his transformation, and he dropped the name Clay and got his X, and then he was changed to Muhammad Ali, and he was trying to give them the meaning behind it. But how, I don't even want to deal with how white people perceive it. I want to deal with how black people perceive it, who are receiving it in a negative way. What is the process of their thoughts that would make them say, that's wrong. You shouldn't change your name. You should, the name your mama gave you is just fine, and not trying to connect or attach history to it. Because my last name is Jones. My last name is Jones, but that is a European name, and I have no direct correlation to that name outside of the fact that my ancestors were enslaved, possibly by a
By the
family named
Joneses.
Jones. So why would I want to carry that and feel esteemed about carrying a name like that throughout my lineage and my future generations to come? Help
It's
us with
again
that, Bob.
about it's about our misidentification. So we identify with Western culture, we receive Western names, and in our mind that's normal. That's quote unquote normalized. If you go to a lot of countries in Africa now, you'll see Africans with European names. European names. They won't tell you the African name. My name is John. Your name is not John. Tell me your real name. That's what I have to talk to them.
Well,
When I go to Africa, you telling me your name is Barnabas or something, tell me the name your mama gave you.
who you are. Right. Who you are.
Unkuluku.
Who your ancestors call you. Now, I was
But
having
yeah,
a
we've been conditioned. We've been conditioned to accept Western worldview. That's the culture, that's the language, that's the images, that's all of it. We don't, but you mentioned Muhammad Ali. Now, this is the power of what he did. I wasn't a Muslim at the time. I wasn't even in the shrine at the time when he changed his name. But when I was 15, I had a teacher in high school who brought a list of African names to school, and she passed them out to the class. And she said, I want all of you to pick one of these African names. This is going to be your club name. We had an after school Black literature club. So I picked the name Mbayu because it's a Kenyan name, means fast runner. I'm a runner. I've always been a runner. So I picked that name. I said, that's who I am. And I started using the name. I didn't just pick it. I didn't do like my friends did. They all picked the name, but they only used it at the club meet.
right.
I came home and told my mother, I'm no longer William. I'm Bayou.
You didn't even have to say it. I would have just said him.
But she looked at me like I was crazy. And I said, no, this is who I am. So I went back to school. And from then on, instead of putting my birth name on all my papers, I put Mbayu Chewy. That's the name I picked. Oh, my teachers gave me. I went to all white high school. I had all white teachers. They refused to call me Mbayu. I said, I don't care if you don't have to call me Mbayu, but this is who I am. And they kept threatening me. If you keep putting that name on your papers, you're not going to get credit for the work. I said, you can't not give me credit for my work. So I would put Mbayu Chewy, and then in parentheses, I would put my initials of my birth name. Oh my God, they were so pissed off with me. But I could care less. This is who I am. By the time I graduated from high school, I was in Bayou Chewy.
Mm.
They had to accept it.
They had no
When
choice.
I went to college, I was in Bayou Chewy. None of my college buddies, and I got many of them, know that I even have a government name. They only know me. All my professors, all my everybody knew me as in Bayou Chewy. So I just adopted the name, and I said, "This is who I am." I didn't realize the impact that Muhammad Ali had on the psyche of young black boys growing up at that time. That was the impact of him.
Yes, yes, and to have to deal with facing public ridicule and being
Yeah.
mislabeled and misunderstood and disrespected, and not only
Well, I'll
that,
tell you, the hardest fight I had was not with those white teachers. It was with my
with
mother.
us.
She was
yeah,
the last one. Everybody in my family was calling me Mbayu. My mother was the last holdout.
right,
When she
yeah,
saw
that's what I was
I
gonna
was
say.
I was not going to change, she finally came around, maybe like 5 years later. By the time I was 21 or so, she started calling me Mbayu. But I wouldn't give up. I said, "This is who I
That's
am.
who I am now.
This
I
is
know
who I am."
my
And what I was trying to help her see is not that the name that her and my father gave me wasn't valuable. I still hold much value to that name. That's my lineage. That's my family tree. That's what connects me to my grandparents. It has meaning, but not in the context of my identity in the world. So it's not like I said, "Oh, I hate this name." And I started doing research, started studying my family name. And I found out, hey, Moor is an African word. It means black. And then I started studying the Moors and found out that they civilized Europe. And I said, let me pull my name back
up.
out again to celebrate this name.
Well,
So again, it's about doing what's natural. Nobody
Right,
told me to do this. It was just in me. And so I just followed that energy and it always leads you the right way. If you follow it, it'll always lead you the right way.
well. And with that being said, brother, we have held you for an hour and a half.
hey, we need to celebrate that, IJ. We
I
need to
got you for
celebrate that
no.
because
We just a record.
I'm always on calls with Cardinal and Bayou, and when he's done, he's done.
And this is
You
the
know how many
power of what
times
it
I've heard
is.
him say, "I don't know about y'all.
But I'm
Y'all
out.
ain't got to go home, but y'all got."
And it's fun. Well, and I want to add something extra to this because and we're talking. The topic is ancestral veneration and its importance and its effect on us and the fact that it's in our DNA. In that process, I'm trying to tell you, I love my church community as far and wide as we are. Everybody was like, "Get him to tell a story. Get him to tell a story." It's who we are when it comes to receiving that spirit from you. And in my house. Sorry. And moment is real because there was a minister who's now an ancestor who came in my house and put his hand on my shoulder and whispered in my ear and said, "Get him to tell a story." And he was one of the best storytellers as well. It was Brother Lutalo. And he couldn't start a sermon without a story. And when I tell you, I'm sorry, this is real, y'all. I'm sorry. And he was like, "Yeah, get him to tell a story." Because it's nothing like a storyteller hearing a great story from another storyteller. Y'all, this is real.
Teller was my buddy. He was my first roommate in Atlanta, and he is a natural born
Storyteller.
storyteller
Mm.
Well, we've been
from
talking
village.
about it all night. How our ancestors are not dead, and we are still being affected by them. So, you know, it was only a matter of time before we had an ancestor visit this energy
That's
and this
it.
conversation that we are having right now.
That's it. I get him to tell a story. And I heard him laugh. I could feel him sit back, listen. I could see him smile, you know, and not me not knowing y'all relationship, you know, not understanding that this is a spirit, this is kindred spirit. So it's gonna call him here. It's gonna call him to the circle, and he's gonna enjoy it just as much as we are, and everybody watching. This is the power of who we are, black folk. This is it. We do not walk alone. And as we're on this path to connect as family, we got family waiting to help us with this experience of us physically, emotionally, and spiritually being a greater African family. And I truly, 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 truly appreciate you being on here with us tonight. Now we can keep you for another few hours. We could do that because me and Kalonji start talking. We'll do it. Any last words you want to say before we go into the after show?
Our fathers and mothers came here, lived, struggled, and built here at this place. Their love and labor rose like the sun and gave strength and meaning to the day. For them then who gave us so much, we must give back in return. On the same soil, we must sow our seeds of liberation and a higher level of human life. May our eyes be the eagle, our strength be the elephant, and the boldness of our life be like the sun. And may we remember and honor our ancestors and the legacy they left for us as long as the sun shines and the water flows. Ashe and amen.
Amen.
Ashe and amen. Well, we appreciate you, brother. Um, we're gonna do the intro, and then we're gonna go into the after show. So those who are up want to listen some more, will be here. Those who got things to do, wait a minute, we got tons of responses now. Wait, wait. Okay, so now that people, before you go, I know you're about to leave. Now people got it that they need to go to the African Speaks to put their comments in. They flooding in. One love. We appreciate you. My mic just fell. Have a
I'm sure
blessed
y'all
evening,
can
brother.
handle
Oh, we about to get into it. All right, Kalonji. When we go to break, come back. You're gonna be up, brother. Start it off. Give me a few minutes, and I'll be right with you.
Peace.
Let's go into the after show. Here we are. He was not supposed to hang up. He was not. Yeah, you late. Dang, you late. Right. Give me a few seconds. I'm gonna let Kalonji call back in, and we're gonna about to start this after show. I don't know why he hung up. Maybe he needs a few more minutes. But hang in there, and we'll be right back. We're gonna stop the stream, and we're gonna start it up again. We see y'all in a few minutes. Yeah, ain't that right? You see that, Karima? I tell him to hold on. We going to the after show, and he disappeared. That's not supposed to happen. The after show, and I told him how the show go. I'm gonna drop the intro, then he's gonna go up live, and then I'm gonna come back, and then we're gonna do the after show. He was not supposed to disappear, but he disappeared because we wanted one long stream rather than breaking it up. But I guess we're gonna break it up for the after show. So one love. We're gonna be back in a few minutes because me and Kaloji is about to get in with the get in. That's right, Karima. You know, we got about another hour and a half after that spirit we just got, all that energy we got, all about ancestral veneration. Now, I'm going to connect it to this current journey because you got black. Oh, see, I'm already getting hyped. Now, y'all know when, and we're going to see if Kaloji pop back up here. You know when we have the master teacher, Baba and Bayou up, I can't be all bouncing off the wall because he don't bounce off the wall, right? So it's okay, and I don't have to carry anything via energy because he exudes it in every word, right? But we're going to talk about what will like all this energy that we have in the young adults marching in this Black Lives Matter movement down the street, picking it up, waking up every day. Imagine if you can harness that power and energy and connect it with our ancestors, where you are not just marching by yourself. And I remember times when I was first getting into ancestral veneration consciously, not unconscious. That mind, that heart of the mind was deep because it was coming out of me. But then I started doing it consciously. I could walk, and this is real. And if my church is still watching, I'm gonna keep going. And I'm God bless him and rest him in power. Our brother Asukile. And as I was walking to work, I could feel the footsteps of my ancestors walking with me. I could feel the energy as I was walking, and I could hear his voice saying, brother, I need you to pick up the cross at the church when it comes to live streaming, graphics, and editing. I need you to pick this up. And when you pick it up, understand that you're not picking this up by yourself. You're not going to walk on this by yourself. Asukile said we used to talk about conversations of what we could do. And he said, you have the vision to get it done. You have the vision to get it done. And now in this era, I can give you more than I could have if I was there. And so I'm going to feed you what you need. So I be getting information when I don't even expect the information. I just stay open to receive. People are saying, oh, you must love this. And Kareem is always, oh, I know how you love it. Nah, I love the liberation of black people. So whatever they send me to do and accomplish, I'm going to do and accomplish at a great level. And we have members in our church who will march with that same spirit. And we can call them out by name. Where you have individuals who are part of this community who believe in the liberation of black people and bring their talents and energy and lay it on the line. And now we have a group of wisdom, of wise individuals, right? Where they're sitting and they're asking for the younger generation to come on up. Come on up. This platform and everything that we're doing in this world is now time for us to hear your voice. For us to hear your voice. Come on up. And so if you I guarantee you, make a step towards the liberation of black people. Make a step for bringing somebody's awareness unto God, not unto this society, but unto God. Get them to see themselves how the Creator had meant for them to be. And everything that you will do will be amplified exponentially. And I can sit down and say that because, again, this is, I love kids. You put me in a classroom with a book and teaching children, I'm happy all day. This situation came out where it said, hey, we got to move a little further because you can reach more kids. And I started working with the world of the Keebler. And then the responsibility said, we have to elevate this. I don't walk by myself. Everything I do is not by myself. There's nothing I do that's ego-based. And as a people, when we make that decision that we're going to move out the way and we're going to serve the purpose and the need of our people, what happens? What can be done? That's the conversation that's coming up next. Because what would it look like? Not only if the youngest of us had a liberated mind, connected to our culture and put everything in that in who they are and function that. But what happens when we tap into energy that is seeking to have a voice right now? What could literally be accomplished right now? And so ancestral venerations, what are you using the people who are standing behind you for? What are you calling every time when you're knocking and you're tapping and you're calling their names out? And when you, even if you're not, and you're going to visit mama every so often on Mother's Day, and you placing flowers on the grave, what are you calling them for? What are you getting them to do? Is it for your own need, or if it's for the needs of the nation? Because when you do it for the needs of the nation, she gonna go get everybody else. You more than just need a job. You need to find your position in what it means to liberate Black people and bring that, all those talents, gifts, and attributes out of you. What would it look like if we can get this full of energy, high powered generation to tap into that? What real changes can they make? And that's what's coming up. I was waiting for him to come, and he didn't get here, so I got to go call him. So y'all give me a break. If you want to look and tune in later, we're going to have this conversation. I'm going to find out where the brother went. I'm like, well, brother, how you going to hang up on the after show? That's funny. And I'm going to tell him I talked about you. But this is the African Speaks. After show is coming up in a little bit. And we'll talk about more of how this process can be related to this next generation and what it's time for them to do. And we'll hope that they'll be able to rate that to another younger generation. Amen. One love. Be right back. Oh, and I'm going to say, I'll drop it for you. Yeah, see? Karima there, y'all. She said she'd be right back, too. Peace.